Hello, I'm a woman in my late 40s. People have their own soft spots, and some people take advantage of that and have no guilt for doing that. I'm going to tell you about my ex-in-laws. My dad worked for a company when I was young, and he worked hard to save money to buy land and construct a building. He sold the building and constructed another building, and when the income from it became more than his salary, he resigned from the company. Thanks to him, I had my school days without much difficulty. I was good-natured and got along well with my friends. I grew up without being seriously hurt. Even when I had a fight or a problem with my friends, I quickly reconciled. Maybe that's why the kids were around me a lot, and I was quite popular. My parents weren't the ones who said anything about my grades. They told me to do it on my own, and if there was something I wanted to do later, I just had to work harder then. I grew up happily in such a loose atmosphere, but when I saw my friends starting to get higher grades than me in my junior year, when they used to have similar grades as I had, I decided to study harder. I didn't even have a dream or any special talent back then. I never seriously thought about what I wanted to be, but I thought that if I did well in my studies and went to a good university, it would help me in whatever I do later. And from then on, I started going to the private tutoring academies my friends attended. I also copied their timetables for studying. At first, I just blindly followed what everyone else was doing, but as I studied, I found a study plan that suited me. I hadn't studied systematically before, so I didn't know how to study efficiently, but as I studied step by step, my grades shot up and studying that used to be boring became fun. I was proud and felt rewarded, thinking that I was doing my job well on my own as it showed in my grades. From then on, I started to improve my grades and kept it up until my senior year. Thanks to that, I went to a prestigious university because there was nothing in particular I wanted to do. I just chose economics major and my parents were very happy about it. My father said, Aunt Beth will be able to help me a lot later because I didn't study economics. I'm a lot to ask. And you did a really good job and worked hard. Only good things will happen in the future. He gave me a lot of spending money and bought me a present. My mom also bragged to her friends and she was overjoyed. Seeing that, I thought I made a good choice and decided to make sure that I would really become helpful to my dad. I started preparing for the CPA exam in my first year. Since I decided to do it anyway, I thought it would be better to start early. I found I had to do a lot to study. At first, I bought books on my own. Then I got used to the terms little by little. And later I took private classes and studied in earnest for the exams, and I was able to pass the exam faster than other students. I set on my job in the first semester of my senior year. Following my father's advice, I applied to 2 asset management companies where I passed their exams and received offers from both. I went to a place that mainly dealt with real estate because I thought it might be more helpful to my dad. First, like everything else, it wasn't easy. Theory and practice are different, and there was a difference between the things I only learned from books and the things I experienced in the field. For me, it was easy to study for the exam and pass, but it was very difficult to get used to the field. Mom, working for a company is a lot different from what I expected. I don't think it fits me. It's a torture to go to work. Still, it hasn't been that long since you started, so why don't you go somewhere? In the end, I quit the company after less than a year. I felt so ashamed that I couldn't look at my dad. My dad must have been disappointed in me too, because he treated me awkwardly. When I was feeling down, my mom comforted me by saying it was okay. Your father is being like that because he's under a lot of stress over other things. You could quit if that doesn't suit you. Did we ever force you into anything about your studies or your jobs? Your dad only asked if it was possible to do something like that since you are doing it. He didn't mean that you had to do real estate asset management work. But I still felt uncomfortable and quickly looked for another job. However, I was afraid to apply for a job at a company, perhaps because I had a trauma while working for the company. So, I decided to teach an accounting course at a private academy. I did well in studying and taking exams, so I thought I could teach well. I was able to handle the classes well, and the more I taught, the more confident I became. I taught the know-how from my own studying, and a lot of students liked it. There were quite a few students older than me, but it felt good to be politely called teacher. I met my husband there. He was also an older student learning from me. Even though he was 5 years older than me, he called me saying he was my student and asked me a lot of questions. He wasn't the best in studying, but it was nice to see him working hard. At that time, my relationship with my father was strained, so meeting him relieved my depression. He seemed a bit clumsy and was weak in numbers, but I felt those points as a different charm. He said that his father died early and he lived only with his mother. Maybe that was why I felt he looked lonely somehow. I grew up in poverty after my father passed away. Even in high school, I couldn't take private classes or eat good food, and even though I went to college, I couldn't go on a trip with my classmates. So when I meet someone from an affluent family like you, I lose confidence. No, you shouldn't be that way. I also never got to take any trips because I was busy studying. You worked hard, so now let's go traveling around with me and do all the things that you always wanted to do. I felt so sad to see him like that, and I wanted to give him everything I had and do anything for him. I fell in love with him and even promised to marry him. My parents were very surprised when I told them that I had someone I wanted to marry. If you were dating someone, you should have said something. I thought you weren't seeing anyone, so I was asking around for a good guy for you here and there. My mom complained. Still, if you like him, what can we say? As long as you live well, that's good enough, my dad said. I was worried that my parents might be against my boyfriend because he was preparing for his license while working for a small company. They didn't say anything, so I felt relieved. Just like they believed in my decision when I went to college. My parents were consistent. They didn't say anything about my boyfriend growing up with a single mother. I was worried because my friends told me my parents would likely be negative if they knew my boyfriend grew up under a single parent or had no family and lived alone. I thought I was very fortunate that my parents were open-minded, so the preparations for the wedding went smoothly, and one fine spring day, I got married. But when we came back from our honeymoon and went to say hello to my in-laws, I saw my mother-in-law with a man I hadn't seen before. He said, "How are you? I was wondering when you would be coming. You must be Jason's wife. I should have met you earlier, but what's so big on maintaining reputation? We decided to stop talking about that. You met her now. You guys come and say hello." My mother-in-law snapped at him. I quietly asked my husband who he was. I couldn't tell you, but he was the one who came to live with my mother when we were preparing for our wedding. He's the stepfather, sort of, but you were busy and your parents were also busy, so I was going to tell you later because talking about it would be rather a nuisance. Still, you should have given me a tip in advance. Do you know how surprised I was? You didn't say anything even on our honeymoon. If I knew, I would have bought a present for him too. I didn't say it because I didn't want you to be stressed out. You spent a lot of money buying presents for me and my mom still. When I saw my husband who thought of me, I thought of me. I calmed down from my surprise, and I thought he could think that way. His mother said, "Honey, are you surprised? Sorry for not telling you earlier. I was a bit embarrassed about that. Please be understanding." "No, Mother. What's wrong with remarriage?" "Of course it's okay. I just was a bit surprised at first. Further, I think it's better to see you more confident." "Thank you for thinking so. I feel relieved." The day went by without any problems, and our newlywed life began. My husband still went to work and studied to get his license. It was a general office job then, but when he got a license, he said he would like to get a higher salary by moving to another department or to a different company. However, my husband rarely improved his scores and failed his exam several times. He failed the test 4 times already, and I think it will be really difficult if I fail this time as well. It's fact, so I would rather do my own business. Then I don't have to take the test, and you can check the financial status of my business. Well, have you decided what you're going to do? Running a business isn't easy. Can't you think about it some more and make a decision later? But after my husband asked several times to let him start a business, I finally agreed to it. It was true that because of his age, he couldn't just keep taking exams and do nothing else. Also, there was no guarantee that he could continue working at the company, so if he was going to start his business later anyways, I thought it would be better to start it earlier. But money wasn't enough to start a business with my husband's savings. So, I took my savings and emergency money that my parents gave me when I got married. I gave them to my husband for him to start his business. My husband was very appreciative and opened up an internet cafe in front of a college campus. At first, he had a lot of customers, and it went well. However, newer internet cafes started to pop up around it, and after some time, the revenue did not increase. My husband started to lose money, and he couldn't pay me back or the bank loans. So, I came to the rescue and paid the bank loans for him several times. My husband then said, "I've been thinking about it, and I don't think this is going to go very well." After looking into it, I heard it's pretty profitable to buy clothes wholesale and export them overseas. I think that would be better than this internet cafe. I'm confident I would do well. You said that when you first started the internet cafe, wouldn't it be better to do one thing consistently than to do this, and that again? No, it's really different this time. I will definitely make this a success. So help me one more time. I'm asking you. With his persistent pleading, he persuaded me again. At that time, I didn't have much money, so I had to borrow it from my parents. My parents gave me the money without any hesitation when I told them it was for my husband's new business. Thank you so much, Mom. Tell Dad that I appreciate it, and I will pay this money back somehow. It's okay, but it's not that I'm not worried. Actually, you don't know what the economy will be like these days. My parents were worried if my husband and I would get into financial difficulties. That was only natural. I promised myself that I would do well so as not to worry them. But even then, I had to borrow money a few more times from my parents. My husband said that the initial funds were more than he expected, and that the funds were insufficient, so I had no choice but to ask my parents. As I promised my parents, in order to pay back the money. I worked harder, teaching more classes at the academy. When I was asked to extend the class hours, I would do so without hesitation. But my husband's business was not stable yet. He said, I think it's because it's my first time doing it. My budget keeps going over. I need some more money. Can you give me one more time? I know I'm being unreasonable, but I'm asking you. I'm really sorry. Ishmael, I'm having a really hard time too. Don't rely only on me now, and you should try to solve it. I said that, but when I saw my husband without any energy, I felt sorry for him, and I ended up getting him money. However, my father had problems with the new building sites, and they were struggling financially too. I didn't want to ask for more money from them anymore, so I got a loan in one way or another and gave it to my husband. I wanted my husband to go out on business and be treated well by people. Still, my husband's business was at a standstill. Meanwhile, my father passed away suddenly. Beth, what should we do? The building your dad was constructing was passed on to someone else. What? Then, what should we do with the debt? What is this all of a sudden? It really felt like the sky was falling. All I did was crying at the funeral with my mother. Strangely, none of my in-laws were at the funeral. No matter how many times I called my husband, the calls didn't go through. I went home and there was no sign of my husband coming in. So when I went to my in-laws' house, I ran into my parents-in-law, who were about to go out. My mother-in-law was wearing red lipstick and flashy makeup. Even my stepfather-in-law was dressed in an expensive-looking suit. And father, didn't you hear that my dad passed away? I called the other day too. Where are you going? I heard from my housekeeper, but we also had urgent business, so what could we do? There was a very important appointment. It can't be held when a person is dead. The living must go on living. Well, we were going to stop by after we were done with our business. Did you come all the way here because you couldn't be patient and wait? Mother, it's no one else but my father who passed away. But even Jason can't be reached and no one came. So of course, I looked to see what happened to you all. Jason is a businessman. You can't reach him because he's so busy with work. How can you, who grew up in a family where your dad also ran a business, not know that? Anyway, an adult in the family passed away. He's Jason's father-in-law, and it is my father. Even you shouldn't say that. But look at her. Are you yelling at me right now? Are you telling me to jump just because your family gave us some money? I know now that your family is broke and has nothing. Do you still want to be treated as rich? I was so shocked when she said that. I thought I should meet my husband somehow. I left my mom at the funeral home and waited for my husband in front of our house. And to you I protected my husband, who did not show up nor picked up my calls, came home nearly at dawn in a high-end foreign car with another woman sitting next to him. The woman saw me and got out of the car and slipped away. How could you do this? My dad passed away. I left a text message and a memo at your office. And didn't you get those? I was so busy with work that I didn't have time to pay any attention. Can I prepare now and go? I was so angry at my husband when he acted so nonchalant about it. Who's that woman next to you in the car? What is this foreign car? I've never ever seen it before. When I said that, he got angry with me instead. She is a customer and I need the car for my business, so I rented it. Do you have the mind to be nagging about that now? You're just saying that your father is dead, but you must be okay inside. Then he slammed the door and went into the house and never came out again. Only then I realized that something was wrong. Back at the funeral home, I was holding back my anger. My mom was also silent. After the funeral, my mom took care of the finances with what was left. She paid what was due, and with the remaining money, she bought a small house to live in. Meanwhile, my husband and his mother came to see me with divorce papers. Couples can only live happily when they are in a mutually beneficial relationship. If one side leans too much on the other side like this, it will be too tiresome. You already nagged at your husband, didn't you? Asking who the woman was accusingly when he was meeting her for his business? Do you have the right frame of mind? I don't need to say it anymore, do I? End it peacefully with Jason and you should start over again. After his mother left first, my husband said, let's have our relationship end here. You misunderstood me and treated me like that, but I won't trouble you anymore. I could sue for that, but I don't want to go that far since your father died, and he gave me an envelope with $10,000 in it. I was so flabbergasted. What is this? All this time, how much money did you take from my family when you said you were doing business? This is not it. Give me all the money back. Do you have proof? Do you have any proof that I took money from your family? Just come to think of it, I always went and got the money in cash and gave it to my husband. When I took out the loan, I said it was because of my work, so there was no evidence anywhere. Only then did I realize that I had been completely taken. I sighed inwardly that he had betrayed my trust in him by taking advantage of me like this, but it was too late for me. When I just sat still without saying anything, he threw the envelope on my face and left without saying goodbye. Actual fraction. I couldn't even cry for fear of upsetting my mom. I thought I would get a heart attack from my uncontrollable anger if I stayed home, so I got a motel room for a day and wept bitterly all night. I was so resentful. I felt pathetic and stupid that I just hated myself. Thanks anyway. I got myself together again because I had to live together with my mom, and I went back to the academy and taught my classes, and my mom also started working as an insurance agent. Even though there must be a lot of difficulties since she started working at her age, she never showed any signs of it. Even if I lost sleep to earn money by working late at night after paying off the bank loans, every month there was not much left to pay. I was fine, but I was worried about how difficult it would be for my mom. We still have a house where we can live, and we are not sick. How fortunate are we to live without starving? She was the one to encourage me, rather. My mom and I lived through painful days, as if we were forced to endure for a year. Then one day, news broke that there was redevelopment in the metropolitan area. It was where my father bought the land, but my mom didn't sell it because it wasn't very valuable then. But I thought that if I negotiated well with the real estate developer, we would get a lot of money out of it. I also found out information about the site from the company I worked at before and checked on the real estate here and there to see how much money we could get. Then I got connected with the person who was the manager at my previous job. It's just in time. Just as the manager said, a major redevelopment company was looking into purchasing the site. My mom sold the land and a building to the redevelopment company. She got close to $50 million. She said, your dad gave us a big present so that we can live well until the end. You handled us smartly. Thank you. Bess, I haven't done much. How much money have you been ripped off because of me? I'm so sorry whenever I think about that. You're not bad. The cheaters are bad. You suffered enough because of that. No, Mom. Thank you for holding out so well. I hugged my mom and we wept. We paid off all our debts and bought a building in a prime city location. Then we moved into a larger house in a good area. I took the manager's advice and invested a little in other development areas. That was how we became stable, and my mom gave up her job and started to relax to get her health back. But soon after, my ex-husband came to see me. As soon as my ex-husband saw me, he fell to his knees. Funny. Beth, darling, I was really wrong. I must have lost my mind at that time. I'm really sorry. Please take me back, huh? I changed a lot in 1 year. I'm not the old me who believed unconditionally when you pretended to be so pitiful. I believed you like an idiot. Do you think I'll believe what you're trying to do now? You're acting like this because you must have heard that we got somebody now. When I said it coldly, my husband's expression changed. I heard from my former students, whom I taught at the academy, that my ex-husband heard about us selling the land and making money. You were so shameless. How did you act when you and your parents found out that my family no longer had any money? You didn't even come to my dad's funeral. So, how do you come here to see me? What are you sorry about? If I'm out of money, you would turn your back on me again? I must have had something over me then. Please forgive me once. If you continue, I will call the police. Do you want to be shamed in front of other people? Only then, he left. But the next day, his mother came to see me. Beth, darling, we really made a big mistake, and didn't know that you could recover like this. I ignored that rich people will fail, but still, they will last 3 generations. So let's try it again. Wouldn't it be beneficial for each other? No, thank you. I don't know what would be beneficial for me. Do you have money? Or do you have any honor? I won't deal with trashy people like you any longer. But his mother held my hands and begged. Honey, I'm so sorry. You must have been hurt. I know you must feel. So please give us one more chance. Then, is it okay if you can't touch a penny of our money? You're acting this way because you found out that we have money. You didn't even pay back your loans, claiming that I don't have any proof. But if you come now and tell me that you're sorry, how could I believe you? I could take this as a kind of threat and sue you. Honey, we were wrong. I will apologize this much. Please give us one more chance. You're some shameless people. In front of money, you have no conscience or any pride. Should I talk about you to everyone so that you would be shamed in front of other people? She then left when she realized that she couldn't convince me. I can't believe how people can be so shameless like them. Later, I found out that our so-called husband was just her boyfriend, who was not married legally. My ex-husband acted as if he grew up all alone living with his widowed mom, but actually he had been living with his relatives, doing all kinds of things to extort money from them. I never doubted him because I was the type to trust people too easily, but I felt that it was a good lesson to have in my 20s so that I won't go through even bigger tragedies later in life. If that didn't happen, I would have believed too easily on other things. My ex-husband and his mother no longer contact me after that. 5 years later, I met a good man and I got remarried. We are living happily. I also have a cute daughter and a son too. My mom has become healthier and she is doing well. Now that I brought on my turbulent past, I ended up crying. Thank you for listening to my story. Even if things go hard in your life, if you persevere, good days will come for sure. Be happy and take care. Thank you.